Now, they were originally described as British sheriffs, and their introduction marks the most radical shake-up in how police forces were run for a generation.
And this month marks the 10th anniversary of the introduction of police and crime commissioners, the directly elected person responsible for setting local force priorities.
Katy Bourne has been in post in Sussex since the beginning, making her one of the longest-serving PCCs in the country.
And she's agreed to let our cameras follow her for the day to give an insight into what the role involves, as Kit Bradshaw explains.
On a quiet industrial estate in Lewes.
Morning.
Hi Katie, can you lead us today?
It's the start of a familiar daily routine for Katy Bourne.
OK, super.
Elected as Sussex's first police and crime commissioner in November 2012, she's seen chief constables, home secretaries and prime ministers come and go. You've just been handed your agenda for the day. Has the role got busier over the 10 years?
Definitely. About 2.5 years in, they gave us responsibility for victims of crime. And so obviously that has added a whole new dimension to the role. So yeah, it's very varied. I'm quite privileged to do this job.
The first engagement of the day is at police headquarters, thankfully just 500 yards up the hill from the PCC's deliberately separate office.
And where's home for you in Sussex?
I live in Portsmouth, so I travel across to Sussex.
An opportunity to meet some of the force's newest constables. 35 new recruits here today. Was it frustrating that for much of the past 10 years, officer numbers were actually falling rather than rising?
It was very difficult during the austerity period, and I think one of my biggest regrets was the reduction in numbers of PCSOs that we made. And so that's my pledge to the public going forward. So that's for me a red line. We're never going to do that one again.
After the formal inspection alongside senior officers, there's time for an informal catch-up with some of the force's four-legged workers. Milo and Maggie aren't operational police dogs, but they're for officers' well-being.
We know that they deal with such traumatic and challenging incidents on a daily basis. So even if they just come in, quite often you'll see, a big strapping police officer on the floor, on their knees, cuddling
A dog, yeah.
Before politics, Katy Bourne owned a dance company and has been working with the contact centre team on making it easier for businesses to report crime online.
In a good sense, there's a lot more being reported. Actually, I think some of the shops are starting to take a step back around expecting their staff to get involved, which is really good. But of course, the expectation then is that we gather that evidence and we pick it up and do something with that.
We've never seen a PCSO.
Next, it's back to the office.
We've had eggs thrown during Halloween.
To hear the concerns of town and parish councillors in the Chichester district.
To restore confidence and trust in institutions, because they are at a very low ebb.
What impact are scandals in other forces, particularly in Metropolitan Police, having on confidence, do you think, here in Sussex?
A big impact, and certainly, speaking to police officers just following the tragic murder of Sarah Everard, people were really upset here. Officers themselves felt horrified by what had happened, and I do think it's important that I and other public officials like me are seen talking to the public, and then you've got to take that back and feed that back into the police force, and it helps improve. Budget pressures.
A key part of the job is setting force priorities and budgets. And it's fears over funding that dominate discussion at this performance meeting, the 100th held with chief officers.
We're going to have to probably find 17 million for next year. What plans are in place for that one?
We have known for some time that there is a gap in our budget for next year, and that sum, as you say, is significant, and that number is not a number we're going to be able to meet without some significant changes.
Introducing an elected party political role into policing was controversial, but despite initial predictions that it wouldn't last, it does now appear to be firmly established.
10 years ago, there was very little that the public knew about the old police authority. I mean, our police authority had less than one piece of correspondence a week coming into them from members of the public. Well, now we get several hundred a week coming in. So we know that the awareness is raised, but there's always more work to do.
So it's quite a lot.
That additional work, not just to continue to educate the public about this role, but also to take tough decisions as policing braces itself for another round of government austerity. Kit Bradshaw, ITV News.